December 6, 1989 started off like any other day, but ended in horror, forever being labeled in Canadian history as the Montreal Massacre. A young man identified later as Marc Lepine entered L'École Polytechnique in Montreal, opening fire, killing 14 female engineering students before turning the .22 caliber gun on himself. This was the first school shooting of its kind in Canada, but unfortunately, it wouldn't be the last. There would be Taber, Alberta in 1999. And in 2006, another distraught young man would enter another Montreal school, Dawson College, opening fire on students in a crowded cafeteria. One young woman was killed, 19 injured, before the gunman would take his life as well. But there was one person in Montreal closely linked to the 1989 L'École Polytechnique massacre who watched in horror as the events of Dawson College unfolded 17 years later, Monique Lepine, Marc Lepine's mother. For years, she kept quiet, not granting interviews, but after the Dawson College shooting, she couldn't remain silent any longer and released her book, Aftermath, documenting the traumatic events of the Lepine family. Recently, I got to sit down with Monique Lepine, mother, author, and a devoted Christian, as she shared with me what it has been like living in the shadows of her son's crime. And you might be surprised to hear that on the night of December 6, 1989, before finding out the L'École Polytechnique killer was her son, she was urged to pray for the killer's mother.
So Monique, tell us about that day, December 6, 1989. How did it start that day?
Well, that day I had organized a 3-day session for nurses because I'm a nurse myself. And actually I went to work and I did my first day of training. And when I arrived home during the evening, I opened my TV and watched the news. And then they were telling us that this killer, had gone to École Polytechnique of Montreal, killed 14 young women, and killed himself right after. And I was so shocked by this news. And I remember very well it was a Wednesday evening because I was a Christian for 9 years, and I always went to a prayer meeting. And that evening, I asked to pray for the mother of this young man, not knowing that it was me.
You asked in that Bible study?
I was pushed to ask for the prayer for this mother.
Why? Because, I mean, so many people focus on the victims, the people that have been attacked. And so why did you want to pray specifically
Well, maybe because of my profession. I'm a nurse, we're people of compassion. And I'm always, in situation attracted by the people that lives the pain, the suffering. And maybe that's why. It's my training to look after people. So the next day I went to my training again, and I did my full day. And then I decided to go by my office during the evening, and that's when I saw everybody there. And normally nobody is there after 6, but everybody was there. A lot of turmoil in the place, and all the staff was there, and I was wondering what was going on. And then I went to my office, and I had these messages, and one from my brother actually. And my brother never calls me at work, and I was wondering even more what happened. And then I dial his number, and I hear him say on the phone, "We think it is Mark." And I said, "What?" As soon as I said what, my director came with 2 policemen dressed in civilian clothes. And then from then on, my life was not mine anymore.
Did they think that maybe you knew what was going to happen that day?
Well, maybe, but I never saw any signs of this drama, Nobody did, actually. The guys he was living, with these students, they didn't know. The people at work, they didn't know. They never thought that he would do such a thing, Nobody recognize any sign of this drama.
When was the last time you had spoken to Mark?
You see, this happened on a Wednesday. I had seen him the Saturday before. And when he came at home, I think he was coming to say goodbye. But I just recognized that afterwards, you see. But when he came, he gave me a gift, I remember. And I said, why, my birthday gift, which is at the end of December, I said, why do you give my gift right now? You see, I did not understand. So I didn't question over that, and I was questioning about his schools and things like that, but he was not straight, you know, like he was evasive, and I thought he was strange, but I didn't know what was going on. But most probably all this, he knew what he was doing, you know.
So when you heard, you know, that Mark had done this, what went through your mind? I mean, could you grasp that your baby, your son that you had birthed, had done this?
You see, Ecclesiastes 7:14 gives us an answer. If you're happy, rejoice. But if you're in pain, just consider, just think, you know. And it's like if I was asking myself, why, you know, this is the first question that comes to us. I was asking myself, what a little boy of 6, what does he have in mind, you know, when his father goes, his mother has to leave the house and go back to work, and then, so most probably felt a lot of rejection, abandon, fear, you know, maybe anger too. And in these years, we were not talking about emotions that much. And then, well, for a long time I was considering all these emotions and why would he have done that? I have no proof of why. But I have some hypotheses. And then the first one I was asking myself, was he having a sickness, a mental sickness? Because we know sometimes like schizophrenia. And then I said, maybe my son was a mental, a schizophrenic. And then he was not diagnosed. So that's one of the things I was thinking. The next thing I was thinking was, we didn't learn to speak about emotional pain, you know, especially boys. I mean, boys, they don't cry, they don't speak about what they feel inside because, you know, it's not for a man, because the man is strong and viril, and you know. So therefore, my son was a very secret little boy. He had 3 passions in life. He was very, very much interested in computers, even, you know, in 1970s, in electronics, and in mathematics. And all his friends were having the same passion. So he was restrictive in his relation with other boys. He was not the sport guy, you know. So therefore, he never drank, never smoked, and he was always home, very systematic, very ordered, you know. He was a perfect child to raise, but he was keeping everything inside.
So when Monique heard that Mark had specifically targeted the women in the class, screaming, "I hate feminists," before opening fire, she was as shocked as everyone else.
And I was wondering, what was a feminist for him? Was she a woman that was making a good salary, had a good job? Then I could have been a feminist, you know, because I was earning my life very well. I was a director of nursing by then. So therefore, I said, what happened? So the image he had of the women, you know, was not something that I was teaching him.
And he never acted that way around you, that he was...
No, never mentioned that, never spoke about women. But I knew that he wanted to have a girlfriend, but I think he didn't know how to approach women, you know. He didn't have the image of a man, you know, that would have teach him how to do. Today I will tell young boys, go and speak with someone. But by then, you know, going to a psychiatrist was something awful, you know. You would feel shame about it.
How did your church family help you in those early days as well?
Okay, in church, small church, you know everybody. I had friends with these people. So therefore, they were just supporting me by prayer, by writing me letters or verses, you know, that I would read on my own. But I couldn't speak with them, because during these years, if somebody would have asked me, "How are you?" I thought it was the worst question to ask someone who suffers, you know, because we don't feel well. So therefore, I appreciate very much their help, you know, but prayer and things like that. I remember going to church and crying from the beginning to the end, you know, of the service. But it was okay. And I was saying, this is my way of expressing myself, by tears.
When I was reading your book, I was moved to the fact that you, after Mark died, and you had buried him, that a lot of people wrote you letters.
Yeah.
And families wrote you letters. And you wrote them back a little card with Psalm 32.
Yeah.
Why Psalm 32?
It had touched me in the morning, you know, on this morning when I read it.
Yeah.
On the day that I was writing. So I believe that what I write in the morning has to be applied during the day. So therefore, I took some, I extract some of the verse there and put that, because it had a meaning, you know. It speaks about God forgiving, you know, when we recognize our sin and things like that. And it had a purpose for me.
Were you surprised at how many people wrote you letters?
I was, because it wouldn't occur to me, you know, to take the pen and to write people that are in the news. Yeah. But I was very surprised. And I was surprised by the Minister of Justice that phoned me, you know, the morning of the funeral, to say, "Madame, don't feel guilty." I was very surprised. I was the bishop, you know, that wanted to see me, because people were asking the bishop, "What do you do for Madame Lepine?" Because they considered me as the 15th victim, okay? And a lot of people wrote me. And then I realized that finally we're not alone in this world. There's always someone somewhere that thinks of you, that pray for you. I have this testimony from many, many people that says, "You know, Madame, I was praying for you that evening, you know." So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm standing up today, you know. Why? Because a lot of people prayed for me. And then, well, I realized that I was not by myself, and that I was different. I have a life of my own, on my own. And one day I stopped asking myself questions like why, and I said, what can I do, or how can I do it